Thanks everybody for listening to the Caprice story, and again thanks very much to the RIU crew for putting on another great conference. So a quick snapshot, high level, why invest in Caprice? Fantastic quality projects, Northampton, polymetallic, high grades, major land position, and we're looking at some new mineralisation concepts. The Murchison, gold focused, strategic location, fantastic neighbourhood, and highly prospective. In terms of risk reward, outstanding opportunity, highly leveraged to exploration success with high impact drilling in the near future, and as well as some good quality news flow. And finally, management very much aligned to success. We got 20% of the board, the board has 20% of the company, long-term holders, experienced team. Corporately, look, like most of us in the junior end of town, the share price hasn't been that good. However, we can't really worry too much about the macro environment. We need to keep on doing what we're doing, focus on what we can control, and that's doing good quality exploration on our ground. A little bit unusual for a junior like us that's been listed for about 4 years. We've still only got 80 odd million shares on issue, so it's a nice tight structure. However, as you can see there, relating to the risk reward, we've got an EV of about $3 million, so a little bit of exploration success and that'll shoot up pretty quickly. In terms of board and management, got a pretty good mix of grey hair, legal experience, technical, corporate and boots on ground, and probably the most important person on the page there is Chris Orshott. He's the brains behind the operation in terms of geology and strategy on the ground. So, overview of our assets, we've got the Northampton polymetallic project. It's, as I said, it's polymetallic, it's a historic high-grade mineral field, had about 120 odd years of production of base metals, but there's been minimal exploration in the last 50 years. And then there's the Murchison gold projects, as I said, strategic location, high grades, good infrastructure, and we've got processing plants nearby. Zooming in a bit onto Northampton. So it's a large project, almost 1,200 square k's. The area is a historic high-grade mining centre. Over 100 high-grade massive sulphide deposits were mined between the 1850s and 1970s. Some good quality lead, copper, zinc and silver there. 75% of the mines were actually focused on lead. However, a lot of them actually stopped when they got to the copper-rich zones. We initially had the areas in red that you can see there, the historic mining areas, but after a strategic review we decided to bolt on the other tenements, and interestingly up until about a year ago when we acquired all of this, all this ground around us was open, so we basically went out and pegged it, and at the very south we purchased the Yungaro tenements. So the area we think is highly prospective. The historic mines stuck out at surface, so they're obviously pretty easy to find. As I said, we expanded the project in 2021 following sort of a project review and where the other areas of potential could be, because having those two small initial areas was quite good, but we think we recognise that we need a little bit more scale and we need a bigger footprint. And also the last thing we wanted to do was go in there and put some drill holes in, get some good grades, and then find out that the peers came in and basically snapped up all the ground. So we're very much conscious of being first movers in this part of the world, make sure we get our foothold on the ground, and then start with steady and systematic exploration. As you can see there, in 2020 we did some RC drilling at the Wheel Fortune prospect and returned some pretty good grades, including 5 metres at 17% lead and as well as 12 metres at 3% copper, so some pretty good grades. So in terms of what are we doing there, it is in farming country, which has probably been a detriment to historical exploration. That's probably why there hasn't been much exploration in the past 50 years. However, we see that as an opportunity. Because there hasn't been much work done, we basically can get in there and review all the data and basically get boots on ground and really start to work up some of the concepts that have never really been looked at. So the first part of that is obviously putting access agreements in place. So we've got an access agreement now with a pastoralist over the Cuddingwarra project, and we'll be looking at doing drilling there. We were planning to do that early December, but due to delays in the department, that'll probably be pushed out to early 23 now. We've just completed some detailed aeromagnetics, and they've given us some really interesting insights into the structures, and you'll see a nice pretty picture over page. The other aspect about Northampton that's been really significantly underdone is that the area is known to host a lot of pegmatites. There's a lot of good granite source rocks there. So we've undertaken a regional prospectivity analysis for battery metals and rare metals, and significantly no work's been done on this in the past. So I was up there a couple of weeks ago sampling pegmatites. So we've put those into the labs last week, so it'll be interesting to see what they come up with in roughly about a month's time. So definitely something a little bit out of left field, but as I said, the more we look at Northampton, the better it gets. So just zooming in and touching on the air mag that I just mentioned. So we basically got this data late last week. So this is the raw data, hasn't been processed as yet. You can see the central picture is the original sort of core-spaced air mag, and on the left and the right there are two areas that we've recently flown. And it's really highlighted some interesting features that we hadn't really looked at before. So we'll get this processed and do an interp on it, but it's showed up a lot of structures and a lot of very intriguing features that we hadn't really looked at before. So there's a lot more work to do, and as I said, the more we look at Northampton, the more intrigued and interested in the geology that we get. We think it's got some potential for quite a broad range of different minerals. On to Murchison. Murchison Gold Projects, fantastic location, proven gold district. Over 15 million ounces been mined in this part of the world. Great infrastructure with your Westgold and Ramelius's plants, both within trucking distance. We've got the Great Northern Highway going through the Island Gold Project. And we're also surrounded by some pretty good neighbours. We've got Musgrave Minerals and the Evolution JV wrapping us on three sides. Yet, ironically, the three projects we've got are relatively underexplored, particularly given their location. Zooming a little bit further onto the Island Gold Project. So whilst there's been historic small-scale high-grade mining on the island that you can see in the red dots, we acquired this about 2 years ago, and the historic work had really focused on those, the high-grade mining. We call that the island because it effectively is an island. It sticks out of a salt lake called Lake Austin, and that has pretty much seen 100% of exploration effort up until the start of this year. Lake Austin, or the lake area that we have, that covers the remaining 75%, and we stepped off the island for the first time this year and focused in on the Solace prospect. So over the past roughly 18 months, we've done about 20,000 metres of drilling on the island, both air core and RC, and it's really turned out some pretty good numbers. Zooming into Solace, so this was the very first time that anyone had stepped off the island and done any work. This is to the southern extent, or southern end of the Island Gold Project. It's on the fringes of Lake Austin. We were looking to get a lake rig to traverse the lake surface. However, they were very difficult to come by. So we pivoted and used the land-based air core rig and did a series of traverses, roughly 400 metre line spaced, just to see what this looked like. We didn't know what the geology was. We didn't know if there was any mineralisation there. We had a pretty good feeling that there were structures there based on the ground gravity that we'd done. So that very first pass program came up with a gold anomaly over 1 kilometre long, which was a fantastic result, given that it had never been drilled before. The size of the anomaly, and also was proof of concept that there's gold that exists that isn't actually on the island, so we're pretty pleased with that. We followed that up with 2 RC programs, 28 holes for just under 3,000 metres. Got some really good grades and widths, highlights being 4 at 4.4, and which included 1 metre 11, and 4 at 3.4, which included 2 metres at 6.4. Again, we've only done 2 small RC programs, so fantastic results, and definitely more work to do there. The other drilling that we did prior to Solace, we did a couple of RC programs on the island itself. We were following up some of the historic work, but also testing some of the large BIFs that the mineralisation is associated with, and we got a number of good quality results there. Obviously the highlight being 10 at 16, as well as 9 at 4.7, etc. So there's more work to do there in time. The other thing to note is most of the drilling's been relatively shallow and with an average depth of just under 100 metres, so more work to do there in due course. We also acquired the Cuddingwarra and Big Bell South roughly 12 months ago. It's an 80-20 JV with Golden State Mining. Geology and structures look really, really good. Cuddingwarra, it's close to the Cuddingwarra Shear, really good structural environment. And Big Bell South, it's an interpreted extension of the structures and greenstone belt that hold the Big Bell deposit. Likewise, had largely minimal exploration, so we'll probably go in there and do some soil sampling and some air core, as well as probably some ground-based geophysics once we can get access. Just zooming in again on a little bit more on the Cuddingwarra, just highlighting the complexity of the geology and all the targets that we've identified. So that's us in simplistically exploring on all fronts. Northampton Polymetallic Project, historic high-grade base metals, great land position. We've got some really interesting new mineralisation concepts, and we'll be drilling there soon. And then there's the rare metals assessment. As I said, there's been no work done on that. Really, really interesting to see what the samples that I collected last week come up with, and also what the new air mag data shows up, both structurally but also with radiometrics, etc. Murchison Gold, great location, outstanding neighbourhood, highly prospective, and we've been drilling a fair bit over there over the past sort of 18 months, and we'll be back there again at some point. So again, risk reward, largely at shell value, pretty minimal downside from where we are, but substantial upside based on the work that we're doing and the quality of the ground that we've got. And of course, like any company, we're assessing new projects. We recognise we probably need to diversify the current commodity suite, so we're actively reviewing projects, but as long as it makes sense and there's geological credibility associated with them, so watch this space. So that's us. If you want to come and have a chat to myself or Chris, we're at booth 39. I'll be around for the next couple of days. Look forward to talking to you.